Hello and welcome. My name is Olga and I am the creator of the Self-Care Wheel, the world's #1 rated, most searched, downloaded, and utilized self-care tool. In this video, I'll share the origin story of the Self-Care Wheel and how it quite literally saved my life. Through the years, I got so many questions about how and why I created the Self-Care Wheel. And for the longest time, I'd only touched the surface without sharing any details about what really happened. Because the reality was that creating the Self-Care Wheel was, without any exaggeration, life-saving for me. And the circumstances surrounding it were quite personal. But after listening to your numerous stories in my trainings, conferences, online courses, and webinars, I decided to share my story. Because so many of you really struggle, especially now, with the same things I did in the very beginning. And I felt that sharing my story could really help people learn from my experiences and start living a much more fulfilling, healthier, and happier life now. So, here it is. That year, I finally finished my grad school, received a company laptop, credit card with an expense account, and my own super shiny and brand new company, BlackBerry. For those of you who have no idea what BlackBerry is, aside from the delicious things you buy at the supermarket, it is in fact your iPhone's great-grandfather. That company, BlackBerry, was sort of like a rite of passage for me. I finally made it and things were looking up. I had an amazing career where I did something I really loved, was passionate about, and trained for years in school to do well in. I was working in the interpersonal violence prevention field. First as an advocate for domestic violence survivors, and then a counselor, and then transitioning into becoming a trainer. For me, it was a dream. I knew I was contributing to making a world a better place. I was helping people. I felt like my life had meaning and purpose. And on top of it, I got my own BlackBerry little suitcase and was traveling all over the United States to train people who were just as invested in this work as I was. And then it happened. That day, 15 years ago, I was doing my training with all those amazing advocates, first responders, medical and mental health providers, like I did a million times before. I was watching their faces smile at me, nod, and eyes have little epiphanies about the new tools I was talking about. And then the entire left side of my body went numb. My heart burst in excruciating pain, and I could not breathe anymore. Then I collapsed, and everything went black. I came to in a hospital, being attached to IVs, monitors, and surrounded by a very concerned medical team. Everything looked so scary, and I thought, I really hope that I'm not dying here from a heart attack because, well, I'm not ready. All I did with my life is work. And although I really loved it, sitting there in a hospital bed, I felt a lot of regret about not enjoying my life more, not taking more time for family and friends, not experiencing new activities, places, and things, not making my life more balanced, more joyful, and more beautiful than what it was. Well, it turned out I wasn't dying. The culprit was the acute exhaustion from traveling and working 24/7, my lifestyle, and not taking care of myself one bit. And that terrible pain I was experiencing was actually a panic attack that manifested as a heart failure. That day, my body simply said, enough. My supervisor lovingly and very strongly suggested I go to therapy. I hated it so much because obviously I didn't really need it. Sure, I worked a little too much and was a little depressed, but who wouldn't be working with trauma every day, right? Well, I was wrong. Sitting there on a therapist's couch for the first time, I told her about how I loved my job and how it really allowed me to take care of people who really, really needed me. She said, that's really wonderful that you're feeling fulfilled by taking care of others, but how do you take care of you? I sat there for what seemed like an eternity, like a deer in the headlights, frozen in time and space. And then I promptly burst into tears because I could not think of even one way I took care of myself, not even a one. And then the floodgates opened. I told her I was going through a terrible divorce, working 24/7, isolating, picking up all sorts of bad habits, having a functional depression, and experiencing very public and very real panic attacks that take me to the ICU. And then there was this stuff from my childhood I never talked about that got triggered regularly at work. Stuff like living with incredible poverty, violence, and fear through the fall of the Soviet Union as a foster kid after losing my mom to domestic violence. Every time I went to work, I had an opportunity, directly or indirectly, to help a woman in a very difficult and very dangerous situation, and to possibly help another kid not to lose their mom. So there was never even a thought of learning how to take care of me, learning how to take a break, learning how to nurture or love myself, or how to expand my life beyond my work. And my body and mind were literally falling apart from living like this and from absolute lack of self-care in my life. I was convinced that this life was all I could have. The one with doing good things for others, with my company BlackBerry and a laptop. That was just as good as it gets. Besides, aren't women, all of them, regardless of their personal histories and fields of work, always feel exhausted, looking after others, putting themselves last, and feeling a mild disappointment of how it all turned out? And if career is good, then all of it is sort of worth it and enough. Well, my therapist said, no, it's not enough. Everyone, regardless of their bringing, personal history of trauma, or type of work they do, can have a healthy, meaningful, balanced, and joyful life they love. It takes some work, dedication, and practice, but anybody can do it. She said, I strongly suggest you start now with learning how to take care of yourself better. In fact, if you don't, next time you collapse, it will be a heart attack. I didn't want a heart attack. What I wanted was the life she was talking about, the healthy and happy one, the one where I don't look at myself in the mirror and say, isn't life supposed to be so much more sane, balanced, joyful, so much more beautiful than this. That day, I decided that I was going to get to the bottom of how to start living a joyful, meaningful, happy, and healthy life. Because if I didn't, it would kill me. My therapist suggested I start figuring out how to take care of myself a little better, one nurturing activity at a time. And this is where the self-care wheel was born, on my therapist couch, where I sat, desperate and scared, not having a single idea as to where to start. So I started with one step, one self-care activity at a time, which through the years and many other people's help turned out into almost 100 ways I could and did take care of myself. The self-care wheel was my personal tool to create a full, purposeful, happy, and healthy life I love. It was one of the most healing and transformational journeys I ever embarked on. And in 2013, I decided to share the self-care wheel with the world. And I'm so glad I did, because since then I heard so many amazing transformational stories from people who decided to give the self-care wheel a shot. I wanted to share this story with you to show that if my life could be transformed and healed, anybody's life could do the same. If you or people in your life are struggling right now and don't know where to start, I'm here to tell you there is hope. And you can begin with one step at a time, one nurturing activity at a time with the self-care wheel. And before you know it, your life will open up in more amazing ways than you could ever imagine. In the next couple of days, I'll release the follow-up video in this series called Self-Care Wheel, the ultimate 3-step self-care formula, about how and why the self-care wheel tools can and will work for you too. Okay, friends, that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to show your support by subscribing, giving this video a like, and leaving me a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts or questions. Could you relate? Did you or a person in your life have similar experiences? What tools are you currently using on your self-care, health, and well-being journey? Or maybe you have already experienced the healing power of the self-care wheel and have your own story to share. Please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you next time.